I'm Katie. For those of you who don't know me, I am a consultant here at SCS. And I would say like 6 months ago or so, our CEO, Liz Cope, who some of you may know, said, you've got to meet Kate and her team at Simplicity Ops. And so Kate and I were introduced and we started talking. I did a similar webinar with her and her team. And we felt really strongly that it was important to introduce her to our clients. I get questions a lot that relate to CRMs and operations. And I think there's a lot of value that Kate's going to talk about what her firm does, how she can help you, I bet in ways you didn't even realize, right? So I'm going to let Kate kind of take it from here and introduce herself and her background. And then if I do see questions, I will politely interrupt her. And if I do have a couple of questions myself that I think are important for you guys to have answered, I'll pop in there too. But I'm going to let Kate kind of take it away.
Love it. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. So today we're going to talk all about the importance of optimizing your CRM as the operational hub of your practice. Okay. And so I think it's first, important to know a little bit about myself and our organization. So I'll share with you that I've been working in the investment management industry for like 10 years in an admin and ops capacity, supporting financial advisors. Started at a BD, moved on to an RIA where I was introduced to a CRM that we were using as like a Rolodex. And, we were going through all sorts of, growth and, just a big transition in our office. And we had no like operational procedures in place to manage everything that was going on in our office. And I quickly realized that our CRM was capable of being way more than a Rolodex if someone took the time to build it out. And so me, being the ops person, I built out the CRM. So it became this place for managing contacts, tasks, our sales pipeline, our calendar, our client service model, and workflows. And in that process, it totally streamlined our operations, really elevated our client service experience. And I realized as I was going through it, like, man, I really enjoy this. This is fun, and I'm good at it. This could be a really interesting business idea. What if I was able to share my knowledge with other financial advisors and help them get the most out of their technology so that they can be better serving their clients and, building profitable businesses? And so that's where the idea of Simplicity Ops came to be. And that's exactly what we do, is we partner with RIAs to help build out that operational hub in the CRM. And so what I want to show you today is like how you guys can get the most out of your CRM and share with you some tips and tricks for building that out. So again, intended to be a conversation. Holler if anybody has any questions, just stop me. But I look at building out your operational hub like building a house. Okay, there's multiple phases, there's multiple levels that go into building the house. Okay, we got to lay the foundation, we got to build the frame, we got to put on the roof, right? And we can't put the roof on until the foundation and the frame is laid, or the whole structure collapses. Okay, the CRM is the exact same. I know workflows and automations and advisor tech is like so sexy and so exciting, but like it literally isn't functional unless we build the foundation and the frame first. And so the foundation of an optimized CRM is the organization of the data. In its simplest form, the CRM is a database. The data needs to be clean and needs to be consistent in order for the rest of the processes to flow, okay? And so I'm going to take you through how to organize and best practices for organizing the data. Then using the CRM as the hub, okay? I'll take you through the basic functionality of the CRM and how to optimize it as like your one-stop shop for running your business. Then once we get some of the boring stuff out of the way, like organization and education, we can talk about your client service experience and how to use the CRM to deliver a efficient, effective, proactive client service experience. And then you can see what I'm getting to here. Workflows and automations are how you deliver those services at scale. All right. So first things first, we got to talk about how to organize your data. Okay. We need to get into the CRM and figure out who are these contacts. And we need to build like a structure or a hierarchy with statuses and categories and keywords and user-defined fields. If you're using Wealthbox, the language is a little bit different, but the functionality is identical, okay? And we need a simple system to ensure consistency and adoption. So if I can make a recommendation to you, when you start to structure your database, you need to look at it from like a compliance reporting lens. if Katie comes to you and says, hey, I need a list of all your clients, I need a list of your top clients, I need a list of households, like you got to think of it from like a reporting standpoint. How do we want to group contacts together? That's going to dictate what are your statuses or your types, what are your categories or your custom fields. And so at the highest level, you want to keep that list to like 12 statuses or less. And the reason I say that, I think my list is like 9 or something, but you don't want to have a bunch of options at the highest level because you run the risk of a contact possibly being 2, and then I put them in one way, Katie puts them in the other way, and then our reports are inaccurate because our brains work differently and there wasn't a simple, consistent structure at the highest level. The whole thing breaks down. We can get creative with categories or custom fields that like essentially like further filter your reports. So at the highest level, we're going to have client. Then the category articulates what type of client are they? Tier 1, 2, 3, 4. What type of prospect are they? What type of center of influence are they? You can see on my list there kind of how that breaks down. You can get more creative with the categories or the custom fields to break down who contacts are. And as I put here, they're mutually exclusive. So if there's additional things that you want to track at the contact level, you want to use keywords or custom fields or tags to say, hey, Kate, get me a list of all my clients that are top tier clients that also love the San Diego Padres. I scored some Padres tickets or baseball tickets. How, can you get me a list of those people? All of that is trackable. All of that is reportable if you set up a hierarchy like this in the CRM. All right, so once you know like the basic organization, that foundation of your database, we can get into some of the other functions. And this is what I mean when I talk about the CRM being the operational hub. That means that your CRM becomes the place for contacts, tasks, your sales pipeline, your calendar, okay? Everything that I have listed here. And what I mean by contacts is, my background is in client servicing. And so, optimizing these systems for excellent client servicing is really important to me. And excellent client servicing to me is like super personalized. It's a deep, meaningful relationship with our clients. It's, built on trust. It's built on, proactive communication. And so it's important that in the CRM, not only do you have the regulatory stuff like, date of birth, social security numbers, employment info, okay, like all that boring stuff is great, but I want to show how people are connected to one another. How do you build out a family tree? How do you build out a professional network? So when I'm speaking to these people, I can relate to them on a personal level. So the CRM becomes your contact management space. It also becomes your task management and calendar management place. So it's the first thing you log into every morning, and it's the last thing you log out of at the end of the day, and it acts as your to-do list. Okay, all of your client service requests live in your CRM. A couple of reasons. Well, for compliance purposes, we need to have a record of all client correspondence and communication in your CRM, timestamped, dated in the CRM, okay? So obviously, when you have communication with a client, the note makes it into the CRM and is usually linked to an activity that says, hey, I need you to do something, okay? And I like to use templates in the CRM to make that data entry easy. I get a lot of questions here about like, well, how do you get adoption on things like this? Well, you make it as easy as possible for the team to adopt. And if you template the heck out of stuff, there's no way that you're going to get pushback like, oh, it's more work to add notes. Oh, it's more work to add activities. It's not. It's absolutely not if you template the heck out of it. And it streamlines communication. It centralizes all of your tasks in a single place. And we're going to get into workflows here in a minute, but it allows you to deploy workflows that help you be, immensely more efficient. And the same logic applies to your calendar. Katie knows it, but for compliance purposes, we need to have a record of all of the meetings, phone calls, appointments that we have with our clients. In an effort to cut down on external calendars and external places to manage the business, we're going to keep all of this in the CRM, and it's going to be linked to the client's contact record. So when Katie says, get me a list of all the review meetings you've done this year, I have a centralized place to be able to find that data. It's linked to the contact record, and now I have a historical timeline of everything that has transpired over the course of these client relationships, all in a single place. I came up with this idea because I worked with somebody like Katie when I was working in an RIA, and I had to do these, quarterly compliance audits, and I found it so frustrating that I had to go to like 5 places just to produce the reports that my compliance person was looking for. This solves that. This centralizes all of it in the CRM.
I also like to
Including,
imagine in
go
an
ahead.
SEC exam having to go to 5 different places to grab this data, or you pull the data, but then you have to edit the report and change fields and filter, and you can have this process with Kate, and it can make your life with me that much easier, but also your life if you're examined that much easier, and you can respond quicker and you feel more confident about your information.
Yes, to all the above, exactly. And the same thing rings true for your pipeline. All right. I see so many people managing their pipeline outside of the CRM, and I just find that it's a waste of time. The CRM should also track new revenue opportunities and show where is the contact coming from? How much are we expecting, in revenue? Who's responsible for bringing in the new business? And track and show them moving up our pipeline, right? And then client accounts. We want to set up a sync with our custodian so that, again, from an administrative perspective, I can see where accounts are custodian, what types of accounts do people have, link them to tasks, so we're never confused on like which account should I be moving money in, okay? This solves all of that. And like Katie's talking about, allows you to run reports and audit the data very, very easily. And so once we know like how the database is to be organized and how to use the basic functionality, we can get into some of the higher level, the fun stuff. And so what I mean is talking and thinking through your client service experience. This is your opportunity to build like your dream experience, like the Ritz-Carlton, dream client service, model here. And so what this breaks down is an example of like, who are these people that you serve? What are the services you provide? And what is the desired cadence or frequency at which you intend to deliver your services? Okay. And so I like to break my book down into 4 segments, tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. I audit these relationships with some qualifying factors that I call the 3 A's. I think I stole that from Kitsis. AUM, advocacy, and attitude. It's not just a straight up like AUM or revenue number. There's an emotional component in these relationships too that I take into consideration when I qualify them. So AUM is obvious, right? How much money do you manage on their behalf? Advocacy, are they a great referral source? Because you might only manage $100,000 for them, but they're a killer referral source, and you get so many good clients from them. You want to give them that tier 1 Ritz-Carlton experience. And then attitude. Do you enjoy working with them? If you don't, hopefully you don't have to meet with them more than the mandated required amount of time. Hopefully you don't work with anybody you don't like, but you get what I'm getting at. I want you to look at these relationships from not just a strict AUM number. I want you to think about the emotional piece when we, assign a service model to them. How many times a year are you going to meet with them? Who on your team is responsible for managing the relationship? Do we celebrate birthdays? If so, like if it's a 70th birthday, are you sending them a gift card out to dinner? Are we calling? Are we emailing? Are we sending a card? Okay, you guys see what I'm getting at here. But this is your opportunity to think through, what do you want this to feel like from a client's perspective? And then using your CRM as the place for storing and housing this to ensure this stuff actually happens. That we have keywords in place for the 12 months of the year that say, in January, I'm meeting with, this household, February, this household, March, this household, so that we can easily run a report and say, hey, Katie, I need you to schedule with, our May people. Katie can run that list very easily. She can email everybody out of the system in bulk, with calendar links, set follow-ups, launch workflows, all in bulk. And it's not like that I'm trying to create robots here. It still feels very personalized from the client's experience, but we're doing it so much more efficiently with systems. Right?
Are these a template? Like, do you provide these templates that are uploaded into the CRMs, or do you help clients with this process? Like, what if I say, I don't really know, I know I need this, but I don't really know where to start?
Yeah, exactly. So we practice what we preach here. When we partner with firms, we go through the same process. We audit the data and figure out how it should be organized. We teach everybody best practice for how to use the system. we actually clean up all the contacts and do all of that for our clients to get it in tip-top tidy shape. And then we have a collaborative conversation about this. Like, some people come to us and they're like, I know exactly what I want this experience to feel like, and they can just like data dump and we build. Other people are like, well, I want to see, what are other people doing? Do you have creative ideas? What would you do? And we kind of collaborate on it, document it, and then we go to Redtail or WealthFox and we build out keywords and workflows and activity templates and build out this process and then teach their team how to maintain and use it to get that level of efficiency.
Are Redtail and WealthFox the two CRMs you're primarily working with right now? Or are there plans to expand, or those might be the two biggest ones?
Yeah, that's a great question. No plans to expand. Redtail and WealthFox are our bread and butter. They are the industry leading, have the majority of the market share, get the highest client satisfaction rate, and the two systems that we are experts in. So we don't dabble with anything other than Redtail and WealthFox.
So if someone is engaging in maybe either moving over to Redtail or doesn't have a CRM and is doing that, you can also help the starting process for them, I would imagine.
Call us first before you migrate data into a new CRM. Like, oh my gosh,
that's your dream, right?
If you don't get a consultant to help you with that, you end up with a bunch of gobbledygook in the wrong places, because the CRM's language isn't identical. So it often gets mapped over to the wrong field. So reach out. If anybody's going to do that, let me help you first. And so continuing on this journey here, we now know how the database is organized. Everybody on our team has adopted and is using it to manage your life. We have clear, consistency here around who we serve and the services we provide. Now we can get into everybody's favorite part, and that's workflows and automations are how you deliver these services at scale, okay? And so when you think through, like, what should be a workflow, I make a joke that it's like anything that's repeatable. But I heard somebody at the Orion conference a couple weeks ago say, if it's done 3 times, it has more than 3 steps. And so I challenge you to get into your business and look under the hood and figure out, what is everybody doing more than 3 times that has more than 3 steps? And a workflow in its simplest form is just a standard operating procedure, okay? It's a checklist. And so we want to bullet that out, standard operating procedure, and build it into a workflow format and store it in our CRM so it's easily deployable, and the team now has their marching orders and a checklist on what they need to do to execute the request. And so when I think through workflows, like anything that is repeatable, a super repeatable process is your prospecting process. From the time you meet a lead to the time they become a client, that needs to be a fluid, repeatable, consistent process. Couple of reasons. One, it gives clarity, consistency, and confidence to your team internally, and it does the exact same thing to your prospecting clients. It's a consistent journey, no matter who on your team is handling it. They know, there's proactive communication, that the prospect knows what to expect. It just gives that clarity and confidence that everybody needs. And so I'm going to get in the weeds here a little bit, but I get asked this all the time. Well, what about just why do you break this up into multiple meetings, multiple workflows for multiple meetings? Why not just have one long onboarding workflow? I've tried that and it doesn't work. And I'll tell you why. Because not every prospect follows this perfect journey. Not every prospect comes in with an intro call and then a discovery meeting, and then we do the plan, and then we sign paperwork. That's all gravy if it works out that way. But if it doesn't work out that way, we need to have a system that is flexible. If somebody we meet, on an intro call has a $20 million opportunity, and they're like, listen, I don't want your plan, just give me my Schwab paperwork and let's move on. We need to be able to accommodate that person. If you talk to somebody, they're like, oh, I'd really like to loop my husband in on this conversation. Can we have another intro call? We need to be able to accommodate that person. This allows you to accommodate those people. All right. And it also allows you to capitalize on a really awesome integration with an online calendar management tool. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with Calendly, which is all good. It's a great online calendar tool, but there's something better on the market now called G Reminders, which is an online scheduling tool that directly integrates with both Redtail and WealthFox. So follow me on this. You're going to have individual calendar links that are the same naming convention as your meeting types. So when Katie schedules an introductory call with me, it automatically flows through to my WealthFox and Redtail calendar. It automatically adds Katie to my CRM database. and it automatically launches the corresponding intro call workflow that tells my team how to prep, day of, and follow up for that introductory call. It is like as smooth as it gets. And you can use Calendly. Calendly works just fine, but you have to manually launch the workflow. When Katie schedules an intro call with me, I have to go to Katie's contact record and I have to manually launch the workflow. Not the end of the world, but I am kind of a geek and I like count clicks and I count. When we make decisions on like what technology we should be incorporating, we literally get geeky enough and like count how many clicks it takes. And it's infinitely more clicks to use Calendly than it is to use GReminder. So that's my preference there. I'm going kind of quick. Anybody have any questions on the prospecting process and why we break this out into individual workflows and the value there? All right, I'm going to keep rolling then, because the next slide is a list of, you're good?
Yeah, we're good so far.
Is a list of all sorts of other repeatable things that we do from a client servicing perspective. And I wasn't kidding. I really want you to look at your business and figure out what are people doing more than 3 times that has more than 3 steps. Well, their address changes, their Benny changes, they're opening new accounts, moving money, someone passes away, okay? In an effort to not reinvent the wheel, every single time one of these things comes up, I highly suggest that you write a checklist, AKA a workflow, to help manage that process. And so people always ask me like, okay, these workflows sound like a great idea, but like, how do you actually build a workflow? And I'll tell you, if anybody's dabbled in Redtail or Wealthbox, building workflows sucks. It's not a very user-friendly process. They're not easily manipulatable at the template level. So I highly suggest that you whiteboard your workflows first. Like literally meaning on a Word doc, write out like what are the steps, what are the tasks, who should be doing it, what is the timing, how soon after you send paperwork do you want to follow up to make sure you get it back? Like get that all jotted down on a Word doc first, so that if you need to move things around or edit it, it's much easier to manipulate, and then take it to the CRM and build out the template. Because,
or if you're an SCS client, you probably have a policy and compliance manual for a client termination, maybe even for a fee adjustment. You might have a client death process. You certainly have a rollover and process these days, right, everybody? So some of these are in your compliance manual, and we often find in our testing of your policies and procedures that there's not consistency with how one person does a client termination. Maybe it's the advisor, or maybe it's how the fee is refunded, and that's where we get into trouble with an exam. I'm not going to get you in trouble, right? We'll have a conversation, and we struggle to get people to do things the same way. Enter Kate and her team, and you say, well, here's my client termination policy. And she's like, great, I'm going to make it into a workflow for you. Now everyone's doing that process the same. And then when I test it, at least I see that consistency, and maybe even, you know, the fee adjustment is the same. You've done the same process. There's instructions. So I love this.
That's exactly why we make this recommendation. It also just helps you become wildly more efficient, that you have a standard operating procedure to help do these things. You know, some of the stuff you could probably do with your eyes closed, right? You do it every day. Some of the stuff like client termination or someone passes away, it doesn't happen all that often, but when it does, I have just found that I would go back and I would try to find the last best death claim that I did with no NIGOs and try to reinvent that process. You know, it's just wildly inefficient. Whereas if you have a checklist, AKA a workflow in place, it's like, oh yeah, boom, 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 boom. Here's my email template. I'm off to the races. You know what I mean?
And then it's documented for you.
Yep. It's
right?
trackable. It's, if you need me to produce any sort of reporting around it, I can do that. And for those of you that work on teams, like one of the benefits of being part of a team is being able to operate as a team. Let's pick up where somebody else left off. If Katie's out for the day and a client calls in and wants to know about some conversation that she had with Katie and where are we at on the paperwork, or like, I thought you guys were going to send me some money, I can go into the database of the client's contact record and I can see where Katie left off and I can pick up where she left off, and business doesn't stop just because she was out that day. Right? There's so many benefits here. And I know the idea and the process sounds daunting, but I'll tell you, It is short-term pain for long-term gain. Your future self is going to thank you so much for taking the time to build these things out. The next time, you know, a client terminates, that you have a checklist in place to help guide the process.
So Kate, that actually brings up a good question, which you might get to, but I would say then maybe if you're working with someone who has a CRM in place, so maybe I already have Redtail in place, but I don't use it to its full capacity and ability, and I'm going to hire you. What's a reasonable time frame from start to finish that I would expect? And granted, you haven't gone through with all the processes yet, but
yeah, it varies. It varies depending on the complexity of your business. It varies depending on how many team members you have. It varies depending on how many systems and processes and different lines of business do you have. Because the key to successful implementation is adoption by all users. So we take it methodically and we take it slowly to get that adoption, because if there's somebody that doesn't get it or that, you know, refuses to adopt, the system breaks down. Okay, and so I find on average, I mean, it really varies. We knock some of these projects out in like 6 months. Some take more than a year. This is ultimately like the framework for running your entire practice. So it needs attention and it needs time. And I mean, if you partner with us, we get it done a whole lot faster than you trying to figure it out yourself, which, I mean, when I was doing this myself, trying to piecemeal all of it together to make it work, it took me like 3 years. Yeah, I probably spent half of my week, 20 of my 40 hours each week, learning, building, making mistakes, undoing, crying. Yeah. But in the end, it was worth it.
yeah.
You know, we grew by hundreds of millions of dollars. Our client service experience was like butter. We grew a team. We left our TAMP. Like, this is how you get to that next level, is having these systems in place. And so I wasn't kidding when I said, like, we applied this same logic to all of the repeatable things that we do. There are like operational things that we do that we should also have workflows in place for. Let's use my example again. Katie's out and I need to pick up where she left off. She's prepping for a client event, or she's running our firm's RMDs, or she's in the process of hiring a new team member, or running payroll, like literally anything. I can pick up where she left off. I have a system in place now, a process in place that helps me get whatever the job is done.
So even something not tied to a client, so human resource related things. Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
And so in that case, that's a really great question. Yes, anything that is like operational in nature still lives in the CRM. From a business management standpoint, like if I have a team of advisors, client service people, and ops people, I want to be able to see what is happening in my practice in a single place, which includes operations. So I would have an ABC Wealth Management contact, our firm's contact, in the database that I link tasks, activities, and workflows to. So me as a business owner, if I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on in the practice right now, or I wonder what my ops team is working on, I can go to my ABC Wealth Management contact and I can see, oh, Katie's in the middle of payroll, you know, Susie's in the middle of whatever. Like operationally, all lives in your CRM.
Very cool.
And that's it. This is how you do it. Those are the 4 phases: organization, education, building out your service model, and implementing workflows. And if I can make, you know, any recommendation to anybody, just take the time and do it. You are going to be so much better off. If you feel like there's friction in your business, it's because you don't have streamlined operational processes in place. If you worry about dropping balls, you feel like you're reinventing the wheel, or heaven forbid clients leave, or you're beat to the punch on client service requests, it's because you don't have systems like this in place. This solves all of that. Improves client retention, improves employee retention. Not to mention, it helps you bring in a whole lot more business, better serve your clients, and become infinitely more profitable.
So that might be part of the pitch. So what happens when you have a couple of people at your firm? Like I often encounter my clients have people, whether it's someone who's done their job, this is the way I've done my job forever. I've always done it this way. Why would I change? Or you have people maybe that aren't as excited about new technology. Talk about how those are hurdles, right, in making this successful. So can you talk about how you work with that and the approach that you take?
That is a really great question. And it all, like, in order to get that adoption, in order to get the streamlined systems that everybody craves and desires, we have to get adoption from the top down. So the leader of the organization has to deeply believe in the value, deeply believe in operations. They have to deeply believe in the value of investing in something like this, or they have to deeply believe that systems and streamlined, solid operational processes is the answer to improving client retention, improving employee happiness, improving, reducing friction. Like, they have to believe in that. And they have to be supportive, deeply supportive of the person that's building all of this. And then there needs to be communication as a team that's like, hey, listen, let's say, owner of the company is Bob, okay? All of these processes and things that we're building are Bob's desire for this organization. It's a brain dump of like how they want to run the business. It's a brain dump of like how they want the client service experience to feel. So that person that's like, well, I've always done it this way. Well, great. They're going to be part of the conversations and writing workflows because that's their job and their responsibility. But if Bob wants to do it different than that person or tweak it or whatever, like everybody needs to be on board and trust and know that like he's making the best decision for the organization, or there just needs to be buy-in from everybody that operations are the center and the core focus for whatever that period of time is. And the benefit of hiring an expert that has done this is to be supportive and help that person that like needs some additional training, needs some additional hand-holding, maybe is hesitant about certain technology. And if you're managing this yourself in your office, you just have to be really patient and know that people learn differently. You might need to explain it a couple times or explain it a little bit differently. And what I found was really helpful is like we had 30, 45 minutes of every single one of our Monday morning staff meetings set aside to just talk about the systems we were building. And that's how the leader of the organization, showed his support and his buy-in to what we were doing. And that allowed us to talk as a team about like what's going well, what's not going well, how can we make improvements, and just be open and candid about how people are feeling. And adoption is hard. And so also it comes down to timing. Like I wouldn't do this in the middle of tax season. I wouldn't start this in the middle of an audit. Like people have to be bought in that the time that they're going to spend helping create these processes is going to get them to their desired goal.
We do have a question. I encourage people to ask more. I have one too. Does Redtail Tasks send out email updates each time a task is updated?
Yes, it's a preference. It's a preference in Redtail. You know what I'll do, Katie? I'll include in my email to you today our preference snapshot. You can turn that on. So yes, anytime an activity gets assigned to you, you get a system generated email. Anytime that activity is edited, you get a system generated email. And I just warn everybody to limit the amount of notifications you have turned on in Redtail so that you don't get a notification for like every freaking thing, because then you just disregard those emails and they serve no purpose, when in actuality, they're actually really helpful to draw your attention back to your to-do page, your to-do list. We just need to use them in a limited capacity. That's a great question, but yes, that is available.
Does part of your service, this is my question that I just thought of, does part of your service include training on these CRMs? Because I would imagine that part of the handicap people have, and they don't even realize it, is they don't know the functionalities and how these things work. And is that part of it? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny. I think the most common thing that I hear when I do introductory calls with prospects is like, we just don't know what we don't know. And so, we follow this exact same framework. So after we like figure out how the database is organized and cleaned up, we get into that hub slide that I was talking about, and we partner with their firm and train all of their team how to use it for contacts, tasks, sales pipeline, calendar, you know, the whole gamut there, because that's how you get adoption. We need to get everybody in the room together to ensure consistency, that they're hearing the same message, and that they're all learning best practices together. That is a huge component of what we do.
Mm-hmm. When part of my background is I worked for an advisor in compliance for many years. And at that time, we used Redtail. There was not a phone app yet. So I'm assuming now there's an app for your phone that it can be captured and it links to everything. So you can assign a task, approve a task, add a client, you know, be working on it all from your phone too.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, there is a Redtail app. The functionality isn't all that advanced, but it works fine. You can access your calendar, you can add tasks, you can do all the things that you just mentioned. Absolutely.
Okay. Any
Great
other
question.
questions for Kate while we have her? You can ask specific questions or general questions. Let me see what I have.
And if you don't have a question or a question comes to you later, feel free to reach out. I'll send Katie the slide deck. You're welcome to visit our website, schedule a call, shoot me an email, and then I'll also include, Katie, in the email an invitation link to our community. We have a free community of RIA owners and operators that's really blossomed into a really cool collaborative space with RIA owners and operators, where people will come ask questions. They're like, hey, I'm curious about this technology. What are people using? Or does anybody have experience or feedback? And you can hear from other advisors like yourself or other operations people like yourself, their firsthand experience, which has become really cool. So I'll send you that too.
Yeah, I have another question, and this could be a no, and that's okay. Do you have stats where you kind of track your clients and their productivity in terms of once they've implemented some of your streamlined processes and you've helped them, how their revenue changes in terms of their prospects and things like that?
That's a really good question. I don't have like data like per se that we're tracking. However, we do exit interviews, like after we wrap an engagement, if they're not going to continue on with us, if, you know, we work ourselves out of the job per se, we always do an exit interview, and I always check in with them to hear how has this impacted their business. And some of the cool ones that I've heard recently is like things that I didn't even think about. The value is I now have a system in place to acquire another business. We're going to acquire another practice, and we have the operational foundation in place now to be able to do that and have the confidence to be able to do that. You've given my son the skill set to be able to take over this business. I was able to take 3 months of vacation. I'm like, I didn't even realize that you felt like you couldn't vacation because he just basically said, he's like, I was just always afraid the wheels were going to fall off because I had to be so involved. And now we have systems in place. It's like, I can rest assured that my clients are going to be as well served by the rest of my team in my absence because it's so clearly documented on how we do things.
Wow.
You know, and then of course you're like, oh yeah, we've grown by 150 mil, or like, oh, we crushed revenue goals this year. And like, okay, yeah, I kind of expected that kind of stuff was going to happen. But I never thought about like the human piece of like, you know, I got to spend more time with my family. I started coaching Little League. It's really amazing.
Wow. That's really rewarding.
Very rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why we do what we do.
Yeah.
If anybody has questions about how to do this or wants to take a deeper dive, I'm happy to geek out on this stuff.
Yeah. I'll wait a minute or two before we kind of close it down to see if there's any more questions. Certainly, you know, if you're an SCS client, by the way, I'm not Liz. I realize it says Liz Cope because I logged in as Liz today. I am Katie, not Liz. Most of you know that. I think most people who are Liz clients know Liz, and if they're my clients, they know me. But certainly reach out to Liz or I if you want to get in touch with Kate. But also Kate's information is on the screen. You can get in touch with her through our webinar link and find her on her firm's website. But certainly if you have specific questions for Kate, I think she's open to answering questions about your specific systems or how you're using it. this is really something I wanted to share with my clients, because I find that a lot of my clients just use their CRM as like a place to host their client name and address, right? And
Sure.
maybe client notes. And even then I'm like, let's get more notes in the system, but it can do so much more. And there's so many more pieces of the puzzle that Kate can help you guys with. So if anyone has questions, we'll wait a few more minutes, maybe like 2 or 3 more minutes. And I encourage you guys to reach out to Kate separately too. So
Yeah, don't be shy. Happy to help.
looks like someone might be raising their hand. Oh, nope, they put it down.
This has been great, Katie. Thank you for letting me come do this and,
Okay,
and
hold on.
sharing the
I see
message.
some more questions. I just found they were like hidden. So we did the, okay, if you so this is a follow-up to the tasks email question, Kate. So this is as a follow-up. If you shut off notifications, does Virtual have a way to provide notifications on tasks when they're updated?
Yes,
On the right
yes. When tasks are added, updated, completed, yes, you can absolutely do that.
Okay, I think. Let me see if there's any other questions that I missed. And so I'm sure too, like, we use a lot of systems like code of ethics monitoring systems with our clients, and I get inundated with emails. We create a separate folder in our inbox where those go, so I can call through them. So I'm sure too, if you're a manager, there's ways to organize your email so that you're getting the notifications, but they're not completely inundating your inbox. There's a lot of, which I'm sure Kate is like very well versed with. See another hand. Hold on, let's see. No, I don't see any more questions. Okay, it's still open to more questions if people have them. So yeah, there's probably multiple ways to kind of organize the notifications, because we get a lot of, and also
I just like them because I feel like, especially if I'm like deep into a project, it helps me help remind me to go back to my to-do list and reprioritize, especially like working in an investment advisory practice. Like there's ACH cutoffs, there's wire cutoffs. And like, let's say we get a wire request from like a tier 1 client. I need to hop out of whatever I'm doing and prioritize that. Wire cutoffs, 1 o'clock, it's like 12:30. It always happens, right? It just helps you keep your day prioritized, all for delivering excellent client service.
Mm-hmm. I think too, Kate, one thing I love about you is you worked in ops. You have that experience. So you've been where these people are, right? Same with me. I worked in compliance for many years in-house. So I've been there, and that gives you a really great perspective.
Yeah, I can totally validate the way people feel. It's literally why we do what we do, because we've been there. It was really a painful process to try to figure it out myself. Oh man, what I would have done to have somebody like our team when I was trying to figure this out. I mean, I'm like, I have PTSD thinking about Saturday nights at 10 p.m., like undoing things, and just, oh man, I made so many terrible mistakes. Just because I didn't know, and so we fixed that.
Okay, it looks like people are starting to leave, so I'm gonna say we'll wrap it up. And again, I encourage people, if you have more questions, reach out to me or to Kate. If you know Liz better, if Liz is your main contact at SCS, please reach out to Liz, and we'll get you in touch with Kate, or we'll get your questions answered. Certainly reach out to Kate directly if you have the ability to do that. And thank you to Kate so much. We're going to be doing another one of these, I think next month, Kate. I'm going to be joining you and your team and chatting some more. So this is I don't want to call it a partnership, but this is a relationship that we continue to kind of go back and forth with, because there's a lot of great opportunities between our two firms. So I just encourage you guys to keep your eyes out on LinkedIn and through your emails on different opportunities to hear from Kate and her team, and also from SCS.
Love it. Katie, it's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to doing this again here next month.
Same. Take care, everybody.